All right. No, I'm not in a region that needs rain. We get plenty of rain up here in very green Vermont, but that's okay because it keeps it cool. So thank you guys all so much for coming. And like I said, don't worry about that rumbling in the background. It's just the thunder up here. Uh, we're so glad you could join us for this Encore presentation. We had a great turnout for the first one on Friday. We weren't able to get the recording started, and I know a lot of people can't do daytime meetings, so for both of those reasons, we are back here Tuesday night of week 2 of 18 EW6. We're going to go over the same material. So thank you all so much for coming. Kim and I are going to tag team a bit with this presentation, and we will start off with introductions. We're going to cover grading feedback, advisor communication, week 1 outreach, which will also extend to this week because you're going to be looking at any missed assignments from week 1, but always handy to know for next term as well. And we'll touch on some faculty resources. So, a quick introduction to new Team Gen Ed. So, as there have been some questions about the general education program was originally, or up until now, under their own discipline buckets. So the history classes that were considered general education were still under the history department. For humanities, they were still under the humanities department, and so on and so forth. To streamline things a little bit and give us a better insight into the general education program, they've brought that all together under the general education team and brought Kim and I on to be part of that team to oversee these courses. So we are joining Anthony Siciliano, who's the Executive Director for General Education and Interdisciplinary Studies, and Priscilla Hobbs, who's been serving as the Associate Dean and Director of Faculty and the General Education Program and Interdisciplinary Studies. So they have been Team Gen Ed all by themselves for a while, but now that Team Gen Ed, in terms of responsibilities, has grown, Kim and I have come on. So I've been here at SNU for 4 years. I was in the economics department, I oversaw the economics courses within our business program. I was hired in the undergraduate space, and we actually don't have an undergraduate economics program, although we do have a graduate program that I did get to work with a little bit over the past year. And now I am on Team Gen Ed and getting to serve a similar group of students that I served in our intro to economics classes. And I'll let Kim talk a little bit about herself, so I don't hog it all.
Thank you, Nicole. I've been with SNU for about 2 years now, and I've got about 13 years in higher ed. I was also in the business department with Nicole, and I have also worked for 3 other colleges, for-profit and non-for-profit, religious and non-religious. And I've been in higher ed since 2005, and then before then I was in operations management for almost 15 years. So that's kind of why I started in business and then went into higher ed. However, I've actually taught humanities previously. I taught humanities and some first-year experience courses before I had the job at SNU. So I'm very familiar with the courses I oversee now, and I'm excited to be working with the humanities and social science folks. So that's just a little bit about me. And I'm just so excited, though, to meet all of you guys, and really thank you for showing up, on a Tuesday night. I'm good. You want to move on?
Okay. We will move right along to the first thing we want to talk to you all about is some grading reminders. So a few key points about grading timelines. Wednesdays are when we need to have our zeros entered in Brightspace by. So this means that any student who missed an assignment for the previous week, so generally speaking, do that the Sunday that just passed, we need to get those zeros into Brightspace by Wednesday. All the actual submitted work you have until the Sunday thereafter to grade. But we really want those zeros in there early on. So a lot of people make a habit of doing it on Monday, but they definitely need to be in by Wednesday. The reason for that is on Thursdays, the advisors pull reports so they can do their end-of-week outreach and weekend outreach when they do weekend shifts, and they want to make sure that they have accurate information, especially for students who have fallen behind. So if the zeros are in there, it gives them a more accurate picture of the students who might be struggling and need some additional push from them. Without those zeros, it might paint too rosy a picture, and then that student might not get the outreach that they need for that weekend time. So the general approach that I take and I encourage faculty to take is to, of course, email. That's an expectation. So email a student, you put in the zero, you send the student an email letting them know that they've missed the assignment. Sometimes they actually don't realize that they've missed an assignment, like they didn't understand exactly what was due that week, so that happens a lot. And let them know at the late policy, you have until this coming up Sunday, if it's not a discussion board, to submit this assignment late. And just encourage them to do so. If you think that some additional resources might help, whether it's something from the class or something that you share additionally that you found, you can include that in the email as well. So that's the expectation. But on top of that, I think it's a great idea to, whether it's just exactly copy pasting what you put in the email message or reiterating something similar in the feedback area. So when the student goes into their grades area and they see that zero, they'll also see that message from you. They might go there before they check their email. Some students aren't checking their SNU email that frequently, so this is one way to capture them before, as soon as possible, if for whatever reason they're not checking email. And then that's our expectation with Wednesdays. Kim and I and Priscilla with the courses that she oversees as well, we get reports on Thursdays as well, so we can see if there's any zeros that should have been entered, and if we notice that you forgot for any reason, it happens, we'll just follow up with you and give you a reminder. So no cause for worry. I've forgotten to do it on Wednesdays too. I try to remember on Monday, and if I forget on Monday, then I often tend to forget on Wednesday because it's a Monday habit. So we will absolutely reach out to you, and if it seems to happen a lot, then we'll talk about a plan to maybe add a task reminder to your calendar or something. But we do like to keep an eye on that to make sure that the advisors and everybody and the student has everything they need in terms of accurate information. So Sunday grading, this is pretty typical for those of you who aren't new to SNU. The work is due on Sunday of the module, and then the following Sunday your grades are due. If for any reason you're going to be late with grading, maybe you got caught traveling and you're not going to get to the internet and you thought you would be able to finish on Sunday night and you can't, you're sick, whatever, please just, if you can, please just shoot us an email and let us know. And put a note in your classroom, a quick announcement that you'll be late with grading and with a time when you expect to get it done. These things come up, and as long as they don't come up on a regular basis, we understand that life happens, but it's just really important that we're looped in and that your students are looped in because they are expecting that stuff by Sunday. Another Nicole from Massachusetts. I'm from Massachusetts too, although I'm in Vermont now, but excuse me. And lastly, a tricky thing about Brightspace is that we no longer have the needs grading tab on the navigation bar that we used to in Blackboard. So Kim and I and pretty much everybody at SNU in academics is very aware of this fact, and we are all desperately waiting, just like you, for it to come back. So our team does know about the fact that there is no more needs grading button and that it does take a bit of searching to find it. So until such a button comes back or is instituted, and we have no idea when or if that might be, our best advice to you is just to, maybe every other day that you're in the classroom, make a habit of going through your grade book and seeing if any late work was submitted. It's always a good idea to encourage students to email you, but they might forget and they're not under any obligation to email you. If they submit it within the late time frame, we absolutely have to accept it, and the expectation is that we will grade it within 7 days of submitting. So if they submit it 4 days late from when it was originally due, you would have to grade it 7 days from that 4-day late submission. And I see a question from Evelyn coming in. So great question, Evelyn. Evelyn asks, what is the late policy for quizzes? I read it and it says nothing about quizzes. So quizzes would fall under the same thing as assignments, so that would be 1 week. So just like a milestone assignment or a project, the only thing that's the exception is the discussion boards, which they can't go past the deadline of the entire assignment. Sure. And it should just be open for them with the quizzes. I don't believe that it locks students out, so you shouldn't have to do anything if they, try to go in and take the quiz 5 days late or something. Stephen, great question. As far as I know from other courses I've overseen here at SNU, they do not apply the late policy, the late penalty. So it's a 10% off the top. So if the quiz were worth 50 points and they submitted late, you would take off 5 points. However, the grading won't do that automatically. So if you want to be very strict about it and enforce that penalty, you would have to go in and do it manually. I'll be very honest with you, I'm not going to be checking the grade center for that in your courses, and we don't currently have a report to do that either. There are so many circumstances where you've given a student permission to submit late without a penalty that it would be very difficult for us to keep up with. So if you feel that in this instance the late penalty itself should apply, you would go in and do it manually. And then Mike asks, discussion as a rule are not accepted late. That is correct, Mike, yes. With the 2-week discussion boards, it is a little bit weird for that. So we can talk about the expectations there, but generally speaking, once the discussion is over, you can no longer submit. Unless somebody was like in a car accident or something. But
that's a great question about SOMA, Laura. I'm not sure. I thought that those were set up to close after the late policy deadline is done. Do you have SOMA, Nicole, in your classes?
Yes, one of my classes uses it. And I'll have to check on that because I've heard from other ADFs across a variety of these third-party vendor learning resources that they've talked to our learning resources group to have it be that it closes out in some way, so students can't just be submitting all the work at like the very end of the term for all their quizzes. I don't know what the situation already is with SUMO in terms of the auto-populating of the grades, but I know that in general the issue has been brought to their attention. So if it is currently open for the whole term, they're aware of that, and they're aware of the deans and of course faculty concerns about what that means. So whatever changes might need to be made are probably already in the works. So, but I'll follow up and see what the current state of things is.
I wrote the question down, and we'll check with Priscilla tomorrow.
Yeah, so Fab's saying that nothing closes. Yeah, that's my understanding from like the Pearson stuff that we use in business, that none of it automatically closes. So a week 1 quiz would be open in week 8, and a student could take it, and it would just go into the grade center, and you wouldn't really know. So, I mean, and again, like with the late penalty, you could go in if you wanted to be very strict about it, and you would be well within our guidelines and give a 0 for that assignment. Because technically they didn't get it in.
It's the same way with business law. I mean, they have those McGraw-Hill quizzes, and they can actually take them as many times as they want to until they get 100%. So I know that the faculty in business law, they let them continue to take them because they want them to get a perfect score.
Yeah, so the quizzes, because they're auto-populated, can be a little bit tricky in terms of the late deadline and the late penalty. So again, you use your discretion. If it feels like, man, I'm constantly going in and having to fix the stuff, and remember which student I gave permission to, like we're not going to come into your class and say, hey, why did you let the student get credit for an assignment? We know that the system's not really set up to capture this, so we're working within that environment. So do it that way you will. Some of you might choose to be more strict than others, and that's okay, as long as it's within the not stricter than our guidelines. So hopefully that addresses those questions.
And we'll check on the SOMA. to see if it has a date range already populated. I think we're good.
I see Mike's typing. So Kim, you want to take on this one?
Sure. I love these slides. Nicole did these. She is our PowerPoint guru. This one talks about feedback, and we just decided to do some do's and some don'ts for you. Always, 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 when you're giving feedback, try your best if you can to be positive in everything that you say to a student. And I know, we all know how frustrated we get sometimes when we tell them multiple times to do something one way and they continuously do it the wrong way. But try not to get frustrated. Always be positive. And sometimes you're going to find those situations where students just don't understand, and sometimes you might just have to talk to them. I always try, when you're doing feedback, I always try and say to use their name multiple times too, so they give them that personal feel. Be specific and give actionable suggestions. When we're talking about be specific, we're saying that if you're within the rubric and you are giving them feedback on something that they lost points for, do your best to explain with, of course, not giving them the total answer, but explain what they lost the points for. What did they get wrong? What did they miss? Maybe it was a piece of the question. Maybe they didn't give any examples. Maybe it was just not, the perfect response for them to earn proficient. But be specific in what you're telling them. A lot of times Nicole and I see feedback that's just so vague that if we can't understand it when we're taking a peek at it, I mean, we know that the students can't. So be specific. I always say start with the positive, do the sandwich effect. Start with positive, give the constructive, and then end with the positive. Always find places in your feedback to share extra resources and your own professional knowledge. And in the discussion boards, to me, that's my favorite place to tell a story. Students love to hear from you. They love to hear your story. So I'm always pushing you guys to tell a story here and there. They love those. The don'ts are very simple. Don't use all the same feedback for everyone. If you do, students will figure that out. They're going to notice that, especially notice it in the discussion board. And when you do that, it makes them think that you're not reading their work. And don't always be negative. In fact, don't be negative at all. Always try to be positive. Always try to find something they did right, even if they just submitted on time. Tell them something positive. And don't forget to use their name and your name. Always try to personalize it as much as you can and use the correct name.
So Kim, there's a question from Stephen that I just want to make sure we interpret right. So Stephen asks, I'd like to find a way to look at the least assignments that do not grade manually after the end of the late period. I'm not sure if I'm understanding right, or if maybe there was a typo. I'm the queen of typos. You can be my king of typos. We will rule together in a confusing world. I just want to make sure we answer your question correctly.
I think you meant lock out the late assignments that do not grade manually.
I thought the lock was look, but
maybe. I don't know that you can lock anything out. If you're thinking you want the assignment to go away and disappear so they can't resubmit, I definitely would say no, don't do that. A couple reasons why. First of all, you never know. Life happens to us all. You never know if somebody got in a car wreck or was hospitalized. And I feel like if you start locking things out, and I don't think we can do it anyway in Brightspace, but if you start locking things out like that, you're just creating more work for yourself, because you're going to have to go back sometimes and unlock it and let students, do a resubmission for whatever reason. So, yeah, it does. It makes more work for you in the long run, I think. And you never know. I mean, you never know what has happened and why maybe they haven't submitted. I mean, I'm pretty much a stickler as well for the late policy, and if you miss it, you get a 0. But if you're good and you know the rules and you reached out to me and you told me what was up, your kid was sick or something happened, and you let me know you were going to have it in on this date, then I'm more than likely, if you did what you were supposed to do and you got it in when you told me you were going to get it in, I'm probably going to grade it and give you the late penalty and give you the benefit of the doubt. You guys, we want you to be your classroom managers. We want you to make those decisions and use your own intuition, and we're going to support you in those decisions for sure. So there's always an extenuating circumstance. You never know what could happen because it happens to us as faculty as well. So I would say no, let's don't lock anything out. Let's just carry on, and you make the classroom management decision whether you're going to let them submit late or whether you're not, or you're going to follow the late policy or you're not. We just ask that you be fair to all and you treat everyone the same. And so I always suggest too, in week 1 or even in week 2, if you didn't do it this past week, make sure that you have put up your own late policy classroom management rules for the class and an announcement, so it's there. You tell them, hey, if there's a situation and you reach out to me, I might work with you. We'll see what the situation is. If you're going to allow that, put it in an announcement. If you're not going to allow anything past the late penalty, the 7 extra days for the lateness, then you need to put that in your class so they know right up front. So when they try and do it or they try and squeeze an assignment in, you can say, hey, you need to go back and read the announcement for week 2. So that's the way I handle it when I teach. I hope that answered that. Right.
Okay, any other questions on feedback before we move on? We're going to do a quick live demo of Brightspace to talk about some grading with rubrics.
I don't see anybody typing.
All right, I'm just going to make sure that I have the right course pulled up. It's going to be my old course. Make sure that everybody can see it when I share my screen. Okay. So we'll stop sharing this presentation real quick, and I will share my web screen. And Kim is going to help out on the chat since I won't be able to see while I'm showing you guys my class.
Yes, ma'am.
You guys see Eco 202?
Yes, we see it.
Awesome. Okay, so we had quite a few questions about where to put feedback based on the kickoff email that Kim and I both sent out to the team. So just to clarify things, this isn't necessarily a new expectation. I think that with a lot of the organizational changes that we've made, the academics team has tried to standardize the interpretation of some of our printed out expectations, like what we have in the faculty fundamental requirements. And for now, that shared expectation is that, and when I say shared, I mean across everybody, not just Gen Ed, not just Kim or I, but across all the courses in COSE, is that when you give your detailed, wonderful, positive, constructive, actionable feedback, so we're assuming it's wonderful already, is that the rubric itself, when there's an attached rubric, which all of these courses have for the DBs and for the assignments, not for quizzes, is that the rubric will not be empty of comments. Some of you are going to choose to put the bulk of your comments still in the general overall feedback area and maybe fewer comments in the rubric. And some of you, maybe like me, because that's how you were trained when you came on, will put the bulk of your feedback in the rubric. But again, as long as the rubric isn't empty and your feedback is still wonderful, you're going to be meeting the current expectations and interpretation of those expectations. So we'll show you what that looks like and where, how to make sure that you're doing that. And you can decide for yourself what that balance is going to look like for you and what you think serves your students best within that framework. All right, so I will take you to, let's just go to grades first, since that's where you're going to spend most of your time when you're jumping into this stuff. So it looks different between assignments and projects than it does for discussions. Since everybody had a discussion for week 1, I believe everyone is going to be grading a discussion this week, if you haven't started already. I'll jump into that first. And Kim, absolutely stop me if there's a question. So you'll go to grades, and then you'll click grade all from that drop-down chevron. And those of you who have taught in the past couple terms are familiar with all this from Brightspace. So you'll see there's 3 important areas here. There's the submission area, and this is where you're going to read the students' posts for DBs. There's a feedback area. I often call this the pencil area because it's got pencil, and I think feedback is a little bit vague because there's so many different places we can put feedback. So if you hear me say pencil area, this is the area, this column that I'm talking about. And then assessment, this is actually the rubric, this little chart or ruler icon. So if we come in here and want to read the students' posts, you can actually leave feedback in this general feedback box. And this will, if you click off this handy-dandy little box, will go to the pencil area. If you forget to click off this handy-dandy box, it will not go to the pencil area, and the student will not see it. So Colt, in all their trainings on Brightspace, when they rolled out Brightspace, did not advise anybody to use this area, simply because it's very easy to forget to check this off, and it doesn't check off by default. I personally use it because I've been good about remembering it, but please, just keep that in mind. Of course, the benefit to putting your general feedback here is that you can be writing the feedback as you're looking at the student's work. So there's a plus to that, but then the downside is forgetting. If you click this off, you can leave the score alone because you do have to use the embedded rubric, and you would click Save and Close. I'm not going to do that right now because I don't want to override the grade from my rubric, but you would click Save and Close. And then you'll know, if you did it properly, that the feedback would then populate here. The grade would still be blank because you haven't done the rubric yet, and that's okay. So that's the first one. If you don't want to give your feedback in the submission area because you're worried about forgetting to check off that box, you can click on the pencil icon, and you can do the same thing. Now, again, you can leave the bulk of your feedback here, or you can just leave a quick note, Christina, thanks for your post. Please see the rubric comments. And then all your juicy, good, constructive comments about the student work will be in the rubric. That's completely up to you. But for the DBs, there should be something here in the pencil area, even if it's just one quick sentence telling them to check out the rubric. And then the rubric is here, and this is how you'll score it. So you'll sort of follow these steps, do the general feedback first, and then come here. I find is the easiest. Once you click off, you'll choose the performance level for each critical element, and you can put feedback for that particular critical element right underneath it. A very important thing to note here is that there is not spell check on this window. Even if you have Grammarly, I've got Grammarly, it doesn't work either. So be very careful about what you type in here in terms of making a typo or a spelling mistake. I said I'm the queen of typos, so I have to be very careful, and I often just copy paste what I put in the general feedback so that they know which comment it aligns to, and I make sure I don't make any spelling errors. I see some comments. I can see that there's 4 of them, but I don't know what they are. So should I pause, Kim, and do we need to address any of those?
No, actually, Mike asked about, he asked why we couldn't have the rubric up at the same time as the actual assignment so we could grade while we're reading the assignment. And I let him know that we do have a tutorial that you can actually pull both of them up side by side. And I created kind of like a little very crude cheat sheet on how to do that. And I told him I would send that out to him. Nicole doesn't grade that way. I know some people like to do it that way, and she's just gotten used to doing it her way, and that's fine. I mean, we want you guys to
show it. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I meant to X that out. I can show it. I think I know what is that when you've got two tabs or two windows open?
Yes, that's how I did it before.
So you can just, I'm going to close this out really quick. So before you open up the rubric, you can go up to, I happen to be in Firefox. It should look pretty much the same in Chrome. I'm not sure about Explorer. But if you right-click on the tab, you can do duplicate tab, and then if I just kind of drag it out, it'll open up in a new window. And then I can Alt-tab between the two. So here's one, and here's the exact same thing in another window. And I believe what they tell you to do is you can minimize this and then sneak it over. So basically you split your screen in half between the two identical tabs. So you see these tabs are identical. You can just sort of open them up as much as you can next to each other. And so one, you would, it's a little difficult for me because I'm screen sharing. You can scroll all the way over to the rubric, and then the other you can see the submission. So I could have my submission open here. So here's Christina's submission, and then I can open up Christina's assessment and see it here at the same time. So here I've got Christina's rubric open, and I can read her work at the same time and be like, okay, I'm reading her initial post. I'm going to give her exemplary. I'm reading her responses. I see the date. I'm going to say she was on time, so on and so forth. And then add whatever feedback I want to add. And as you can see, for this student, I didn't give feedback on every single critical element. That's, again, my rubric isn't empty of comments. I've got a comment here, but it doesn't have to be full.
He's good. Thanks, Nicole.
All right, so I think this is the one I opened new. I want to make sure I don't close out the whole thing. Here we go. I'm going to bring this back wide. Okay, so I believe that's the way that the tutorial would show you. And if any of you are fortunate enough to have an office with two screens, then it becomes much easier. But obviously we know that that's not the case for most folks. So that's the overall expectation for feedback and using the rubrics, and that's what it looks like for a discussion board. I want to show you, because the rubric, getting to the rubric and stuff looks a little bit different when you're in an assignment, like a project or a milestone. But before I move on to that, I just want to make sure there's no more questions about DB grading and feedback.
Mike's asking if the notes also transfer to the feedback to learners section.
The notes that you put in here, Mike, in this area?
Yeah.
So, great question. So when the student goes to their grades area, they will see the name of this assignment, and then all the other assignments on the left-hand side going down. They'll see their score. So Christina would see her 40 out of 40 for this. And she will see everything that's in this pencil area, which does not include the comments that I left her in the rubric. But underneath this, so she'll see it as one screen. She won't have to click on anything. She'll see it just all in one line, in one row. But underneath all the comments that you put in that show up in the pencil area for her, she'll see a button that says, I believe it says now, they just changed it, rubric feedback. It used to say assessment details, but to align with our language, I think they changed it to rubric feedback or rubric details. So when they click on that, and it's right there underneath your pencil feedback, it'll pop up the full rubric. So they'll see each critical element, they'll see the score they got, and then they'll see the comment underneath. So they don't have to go someplace separate like they do with the assignments to get the full rubric. It's just right there, a click underneath your overall feedback.
And the box is already checked in the rubric, so everything pulls over, right?
Well, it doesn't pull over at all. They have to click it and it opens up a new little window. So just like when I click this, it opens up a new window. Right. This is sort of what it's going to look like to the student.
Okay.
I believe that Colt, let me pull it up. I believe that Colt has some screenshots of that in their tutorials that I can show you guys real quick, so you have a better sense of what the student view looks like. So if you go to their tutorials, student views, student grades and feedback discussion. Here we go. Okay. Can you guys see this PDF?
Yes.
Okay. So here it is. So the student sees the name of the assignment, the score, the letter grade, your pencil. This is the pencil feedback, and then this is the link that they click underneath. Like I said, it used to say assessment details. They've recently, like either just last term or just for this term, changed it to rubric something. They sent out an email to all faculty. I just forget the exact verbiage. And so when they click on that, it shows you here what it looks like to the student. Obviously, they cut it off, so you're just seeing the first critical element, but they'll see the critical element. They'll see that they got the performance level they got. So here it says proficient, and then their feedback over here. Does that,
Yes. No more questions so far.
Awesome. Excuse me. Great. So it's somewhat similar for assignments, but different enough that I'd like to show you. So we're going to go back to grades, and we'll pick on just a regular project, so something that students would submit maybe as a Word document or a PDF, or maybe even as a PowerPoint presentation. So in this course, my students did PowerPoint presentations. So because of the way that PowerPoint presentations look in Brightspace, I tended to just download them and just read them as files, but your mileage may vary. So you'll come here when you go to any given assignment to grade it. You can enter your zeros, and you can leave a comment for the zeros like I mentioned. But to grade any student's work, you'll click on the submission icon. So there's a submission column. It's got this little paper Dropbox icon. You click on that, and you'll come to that student's assignment. And the nice thing is you can just scroll. You don't have to go back to the grade screen. You can just scroll to the next student. Currently, I'm in alphabetical order, so I'll just go to the next student in alphabetical order. I tend to like to grade my stuff in the order it was submitted. So I will do this from the assignments area, which I will show you, but you're not required to do that. That's more of a quirk of mine. I feel like if you got it in early, I should grade yours first. But however you choose to approach it, you'll get to the submission screen for each student. If you want to download their assignment, you can download it. If you want to read it on the screen, you just click on the link, and it will show up here, and you can go ahead and read it. I'm going to close that out for a moment. You can see the Turnitin similarity score here as well. The student was at 9%. That's pretty low. If I did see a high score and I wanted to check it out, you would just click on it. Most of you are probably already pretty familiar with this if you've been teaching here for a while with Brightspace. But then you could see here and check out some of the matches and stuff. She's not going to have a lot, so we won't. But that's where you get the link. So after you review the student's work, and it's up to you the order that you want to do this in. Because of the way that the comments come through, I like to give my general feedback here first. So this feedback box is going to be the equivalent of the pencil area. So when we go back to that full grade space, there's, again, another pencil area, and everything that you write here goes there. So they're sort of one and the same. And then underneath this, any comments that you leave in the rubric will come through here. So that's why I like to put the overall one on first. I can use the student's name. I always say thank you for submitting the assignment. That's another way to be positive. Even if their work was terrible, and sometimes we get terrible work, you thank them for trying and for not blowing off the assignment, or just not turning in anything at all. So it's one of the small little ways we can always do something positive by thanking them. And if you want to give brief feedback here and the bulk of your feedback in the rubric area, you can just say something quick. You can leave video feedback here. Not required. If you do like video feedback, make sure you're not just giving video feedback. You still do need rubric comments, and not all students are into video, so I sort of mixed it up, gave a little bit of both. But the video note is pretty easy to do. If anyone's interested, you click on this little video button. You click video note, and it will pop up the thing. You're limited to 3 minutes, so it won't take you too long. So then you'd put whatever you want here, however little or however much is appropriate for you. like I said, you're going to work out the balance of where you want your feedback to be. Your wonderful, detailed, substantive, constructive, actionable feedback. And then you'll come to the rubric. So the rubric is this little waffle grid icon. And you'll click on that. Now this one's a little bit easier to see the screen at the same time, so you could have the students' work open here and then make this smaller and see them at the same time. Or if you downloaded, like you downloaded the PowerPoint, you could have the PowerPoint open next to it and go through it that way. But if we maximize it, just so you all can see, you'll pick the proficiency level, and then once you pick a proficiency level, then you can click on the pencil here, not the same as the other pencil icon, but they repeat this little icon. And then you can click on that and add a comment. If you decide, you know, I'm leaving a comment, but based on what I'm saying, I think it's more of a proficient than a needs improvement. If I click on proficient, it will say, do you want to overwrite this? And I'll lose all my comments. So just a word to the wise. If you want to keep the same comment, you might want to copy paste it before you click overwrite. I'm just going to cancel that so that doesn't happen. So you can leave as much or as little feedback in these boxes as is warranted by the performance and by what you think will be helpful. Again, as long as this rubric isn't completely empty. In this one, because it was a really important milestone, I did give comments on every single element. But again, like you saw in my discussion board one, I did not. So not every single one has to have a comment. You might have given lots of comments in that overall general feedback area first, and maybe you just give comments on the specific places where you know it's going to be important in the future for them to make improvements, or where they really missed the mark, and you want to make sure that they understand how their work aligns with the rubric expectations here.
Nicole,
so again, the balance is completely up to you.
There's two questions in the area. I'm not sure how to say the name. I'm gonna butcher it, I'm sure. Sadia. I'm gonna say she. It could be a he. She says she's asking the question about making comments and turn it in. So I'm assuming she's talking about inline grading.
Right. That's a good question, and I haven't personally done that yet, but there is a tutorial, and we can check that out together if everybody would like. I have to go back to Colt to pull that up, and I can pull up the turn it in again as well, so we can play around with that together. So we will put a pin in that and get to that once we leave the screen. I just want to make sure there's no questions about this before we exit it altogether.
Well, Laura Willis.
That's a great question.
Yeah, Laura Willis is asking, she says she's a little discouraged when she sees that students aren't seeing their feedback. So I'm not 100% sure what she means by that. Then she's saying, what are some best practices to help them see it? She says she's put some comments on how to see the rubric before, for example, directing them to the tutorial video, but nonetheless, they still don't look at it. I bet she's looking at the statistics. Would be my guess.
Right. So actually, we're going to talk about that. So the difference between assignments and the discussion board is that to see this actual filled out rubric, you're right, Laura, students do have to go to a separate place, and I'm going to show you that. And this is also in a lot of the student-facing Brightspace tutorials, but it's also shared with faculty, of course, as well, so we know and can share with students. But the thing about the comments that I left here is that the student doesn't actually have to go there to read the comments. These comments come through to that pencil area when they go to their grades. All of this populates over there. They just don't know what score they got, which is kind of important, so you still want to send them to the full rubric. And they don't know, they don't know the score, like the point value or the level. So they wouldn't know that it's a needs improvement and that it's 13.5 points. They would know that the comment was for this critical element, examination, GDP, growth rates, and trends. And I'll show you. So if you can see here, I said 2 things here, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to show that when I go to this pencil area, and again, everything that shows up here will be what the student sees when they just go to grades. So you see here again, examination, GDP, growth rates, and trends, 2 things here, blah, 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 blah. So that's the reason a lot of students aren't going. So when you go to check to see if they've looked at their feedback, and you think, man, they haven't, and I'll show you what that looks like for those of you who might not know what Laura is referring to. It was Laura, right,
Yes.
Kim? Then this is probably the reason why. So it's not quite as discouraging. It's less discouraging. So then you can see here another critical element, examination, GDP, national output. There's my comment. So the student's going to see all these comments without going anywhere but the grades area. So the way that the student sees the full completed rubric, so they know that, okay, I got proficient here, I got needs improvement there, is by going to assignments. So this is, as you can imagine for students, this is a bit of a pain in the tuchus. I mean, you know, you have to go somewhere else even though I'm already seeing the comments my instructor left me. So not a huge surprise that they aren't doing it. So if I want to come here to that same assignment, we can even look at the same student. She's the first one in alphabetical order, so we'll pick on her. So, but she wasn't, so you'll notice here that when you come here, they don't go in alphabetical order now, they go in the order that they were submitted. So Christina is no longer on top, Irene was my first student to submit. But we can check out the same thing. So you'll see published. This is when I put in and recorded and saved her grade and her feedback. So I finished grading this assignment as of May 22nd at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. She hasn't read it yet. If she read it, it would look like Eric, and it would say feedback read, May 22nd. But when I say read it, I mean came here to the assignments area to open up her rubric. So she probably, absolutely, I'm sure, did go to the grades area, see that she got, let's say she got an 85% like the other student. She saw she got an 85%. She saw every single comment I left. But she just didn't see the performance level and the point value for each of those critical elements. And then again, Colt has a PDF for what that looks like for students. So the student goes to a grades area for an assignment. So this is, again, another project milestone. They just see, in the grades area, they just see whatever was in the pencil area. And then they see their overall score and their letter grade. They don't know the critical elements. When they go to the assignments area, here's that same project as we saw above, then they can click here, view, this is what they have to do, and then they can see their rubric. So now they can say, oh, okay, of those 68 points I got, 21.25 were for market research and I got a proficient, and then here's the comments that I read in the grades area that have to do with that.
If you want to buzz over to turn it in, Nicole, I'll kind of share a little bit about how I do it. If I normally don't do inline grading, unless, for example, it's potentially an ESL student, and I know you wouldn't know that, but I've taught a lot of ESL students in my past, so I can usually kind of figure it out a little bit. But if the paper is so hard to read that I can't read it, then I will definitely do inline grading, especially week 1, and then I will send them to the Writing Center. That will be in my feedback comments to them. I'm gonna help them with those papers, you know, week 1, week 2, and then send them to the Writing Center, because if you can get them to the Writing Center to work with either a librarian or somebody who can take a peek at their work, I promise you they will come back every week so much improved. And so that's my suggestion in how to do that. I know a lot of you guys, you know, you don't have time to go in and do inline grading and then do feedback in the rubric and all of this. So, and the good news is that, you know, if they're taking our English courses, our English professors are going to be all over this. So they're going to help them out. And this student population is, you know, they're gateway, they're brand new students, so we're going to see that. But the way I do it, I don't know how you do it, Nicole, is if I'm going to do inline grading, it's going to be definitely week 1, week 2, and then I might give them a little bit of inline grading week 3 and week 4 if it's like verb tenses or, you know, just a couple little things. But I'm constantly sending them to the Writing Center. And it looks like she's got it up. Yes, we can see, Nicole. Are you there? Did we lose her? She's on mute. You're on mute, Nicole.
So I'm answering Stephen's question. So I wouldn't do that because we want students to go to those rubrics. They might, hopefully, maybe this will get fixed and they'll change some of the features in Brightspace. But at the end of the day, they should really be reading the rubric language as well. So you're not going to copy paste the rubric language. They need to say, okay, this is what proficient means for this critical element. This is the feedback my instructor gave me. They should see those together. So that's why we still, even though they can see your wonderful comments, that's why we still do want to be sending them. So what I tend to do in the early weeks and in announcements as well, so in my feedback and announcements in the early weeks, is I will include that tutorial that we've sent it out. You can get it through the help area, and I can show you guys where that is again if you don't remember where it is or have the link saved. But I send it out to students as an attachment, or I can't remember if it's a PDF or an actual web link, but I'll include that in the feedback in those first week assignments and in announcements, so to try and build those habits. As you can see, a lot of my students still did not do that, but they're new to Brightspace, so this is something that might not bear fruit for like many terms for them. So you might not see that people are going to the rubric area by the end of your course, but if all of us continue to do this, maybe by their 4th, 5th term, they've built that good habit. All right, so we're in Turnitin, and this is, so let me start. So I just happened to scroll down to a random page. So let's say, Kim, this is where I want to leave a comment for a student. I believe that I click on this pencil, another pencil area, and I can type in whatever I want here. So far, so good? Okay, yeah. So I would say, this is my detailed feedback to you. And then, yeah, I haven't used the new Turnitin. I haven't used Turnitin in ages, guys, so.
I know I haven't used it either. Fab has a question, and it's burning her. She's raising her hand.
All right.
Go ahead, Fab.
Here we go. I think I did it wrong.
I'm sorry. No, I couldn't see whether it was working or not. Sorry about that. I just wanted to chime in a little bit about the use of Turnitin, because in some classes, like the humanities classes, students have to write a little more. And sometimes it makes more sense for content purposes to just write within the text. So the Turnitin comes handy. However, I had a long conversation with Mike Chandler about this at the end of the webinar. And even though if you leave feedback within Turnitin, Colt really wants to see feedback in the rubric as well. So one does not replace the other. Even if it's thorough, if it's to the point and really helps students, there should still apparently need to be feedback in the rubric. So I just wanted to, because we're really for Hum 100, Turnitin inline feedback is the best for some of the charts for the final project, and that comes week 4 and week 6. So that's when actually your Turnitin feedback would be the most handy, I'd say. But we would still need to write something within the rubric for Colt, because that's where our feedback are being recorded. And what we write in Turnitin is not being recorded in the background.
Yeah, absolutely. And, students might not be, this is something that if you're going to make a regular habit of putting inline comments in Turnitin, which I absolutely support, and I used to do it a lot of times in Blackboard when it was a little bit more integrated than it is in Brightspace, but you need to be very proactive about letting students know, because they might not be used to it, and it's a whole other layer for them to go find it, so you don't want to put in all that effort for them not to read it. This is not, unlike the rubric comments, this is not going to come over into Brightspace at all. They definitely will have to take some special action to read anything that you leave in here. So thank you, Fab, for highlighting that. So I think I've got this. If I want to leave a comment here on this page, I can click. I can do comment, inline, which is if I want to highlight something, I believe. So let's just say I want to leave a bubble comment. And I can just leave a bubble comment, say, this graph, and I think I told the student that, should be in percentages, not dollars, okay? Please, check out, see, I'm a terrible typist, guys. Check out this link for how to change that. And then I might, I would give them this, there's some YouTube videos that tell them how to change this graph that I have, and I would share that. So they would say, oh, I know she's talking exactly about that graph. And save that inline comment. Here is, if I wanted to highlight this, I don't want to strike it out. Comment. So I want to do a comment on this particular line. I could say, grammatical error maybe. This is not the case here, but maybe someone has like a run-on sentence or something, and you want to talk about that. Then you could, save that. And they'd say, oh, the sentence has a grammatical error. So those are some of the ways you can do this. If we pop back over to Colt, turn it in, they should have, I don't know if they have it here. It might just be in the student-facing area. I was hoping they did. No, let's go to the student area. How to tell students to check their Turnitin feedback. So if we come back to the course, every course has this little help button, and then there's a bunch of student tutorial videos. So these are specifically meant to be student-facing. You can click on this, and I like to check them out so I know what students are being told. And then you see here on the how-tos, there's a view Turnitin feedback. So if you were going to be a Turnitin faculty, oh, good grief. Oh, that should work. I'm sorry, guys. Ideally, that would work, and then you would share that with your students in their overall feedback in that pencil area and in your announcements to let them know to go over there and check it. I will have to figure out why that's not working because that's kind of important.
You probably timed out or something. Or maybe...
Let me try it again just in case. No.
Is your VPN on? Well, I guess
it might be. Maybe it's my VPN. Well, no, because they don't have VPN. I mean, students and faculty don't.
Interesting.
Well, that's where it ought to be. We'll work on that. Let me see if there's a video here. No. Sometimes things are a bit buried. Let's check Brightspace really quick, and I'll see if I can get it to you guys, and we can pop it in the chat. But no, this is the same. I'm going to check one more place. So you see, this is how Kim and I do our mental stuff. When you ask us questions, these are some of the steps we go through because sometimes things aren't always as we expect them. If you go to Colt, so I'm on the tutorials page, but if I go to teaching resources, there's an FAQ page. So sometimes when I don't find things where I sort of expect them, I will come here and I'm going to type in Turnitin, and I'm going to see what all they might have. Well, no, this is all faculty stuff, so am I required to grade using Turnitin? Let's see what it says if it includes a link to the tutorial. I'm going to click here and see if this gives us anything useful. So this is your tutorial. So if you want to come here, this is in the Colt tutorials for us, for faculty, and a lot of other questions that we didn't talk about, like the similarity report and stuff. Inline feedback, all those how-tos are covered here. Some of the stuff I just really quickly showed. I don't know if it has any of the student stuff in here, though. It doesn't appear to. So tell you what, when we send out the recording for this, we will try to get a copy of the student-facing how do I view my Turnitin feedback stuff for you guys. It ought to be there, and we'll put in a ticket and let them know that the link might not be working. And if anybody can try it on their computer, maybe it's me, maybe it's Firefox or something. That could always be it.
I'm writing it down so we know.
Okay. Yeah, if I could try it on Chrome, but I don't want to waste everyone's time with that. That's where it would be. So under the help for students. And you can feel free to check out other stuff they have there too. So we've covered
Margie says
how to
it
populate
worked for
things
her.
here.
So.
Oh, good. Okay, so it's just me. So yeah, go to the help area and then student tutorials. And say, like, again, if you're going to be a Turnitin inline comment user, just make sure, just save that somewhere on your computer and you can send it out to students as needed. So one more thing in the rubric here, just to let you know. Where did it go? All these comments, like I said, will come over into that overall pencil area because this is checked off. This is checked off by default, which is in direct contrast with what we saw in the discussion board rubric in the submission area. So you're all set as long as you don't touch this. If you, for some reason, accidentally click it off, then none of the comments that you leave here will come through to that overall pencil area that the students see when they go to grades. So don't turn that off. You know, we want students to see it. We still want them to go look at the full rubric, but you know, we don't want them to not see the feedback, and they might come in and out of these spaces at different times, so we don't want to necessarily complicate things for them just for that reason. So do leave that checked off. And then when you were done with both of those things, mine currently says update because I've already graded the student, but yours it would say, I believe, either publish or save and record. But it would be this button right here where you see update. And for those of you who have been working with Brightspace, you've already done this successfully. So, but for new folks, that's where the button would be.
Laura's asking.
I think that's what we wanted to show for grading. So, any other questions popping up?
What's the difference between that one and the general feedback comment? Then, is what Laura's asking.
So. There's so many places to leave comments. So when you say general feedback comments, what are you referring to?
She's typing.
Yeah, I know. I really wish they had different names for all these things because it gets very difficult to keep track and make sure we're talking the same thing to each other.
She's not answering.
Okay. I think it might be.
Oh, she did.
So there's two things I'm thinking, Laura.
Yeah, she says when I type in all the content in my rubric, it doesn't appear in the pencil area. It appears at the end.
So I put in all these comments here, and then I can see them when I come back down here after I save that rubric. So now all those comments that I left there are now here underneath. But you're saying that's not happening for you? And then this is everything that you see here is the same as when I go to the grades area. So
she says on the discussion boards.
The discussion boards are different. Yep. So we started with the discussion boards. Those do not come in. They have to click that button that I showed you guys. That's right underneath your feedback to see those comments.
They have to click the button, Laura, for feedback in the rubric to see the feedback comments in the rubric. Now, if you check the box at the top, your pencil information will pull over, for sure.
So I can show that really quick again. So student view. So you'll see there's on the Brightspace, the Colt tutorials. For Pete's sake, this thing has a mind of its own. There's two different student grades and feedback assignment views. There's one for assignments, and there's there's three because there's a separate one for quizzes, and discussions, assignments, and quizzes. So for discussions, we'll check out this one more time. This is your general overall feedback that goes in the pencil area that you'll just straight type in there. Thanks for your post, blah blah blah, and then underneath that is a hyperlink. Like I said, they've changed what this says, but it's in the same exact spot. It just says rubric now instead of assessment. So they'd click on that, and then they can see all your rubric comments. So for discussions, the rubric comments do not pull under here. That only happens for assignments, like milestones, final projects, stuff like that.
I told her if she types in the pencil area and checks the box at the top, it will pull over in the general feedback area for the student. I think that's what.
Which are you referring to a discussion board again?
Yes.
Okay, so I can show that again, but again with the discussion board, there's 3 areas when you're in grades, so it's I can circle back to that if it's still unclear.
Yeah, and Mike says, so you could stay in the discussion areas. For complete feedback, click the button below, and that would share with the students to click that button, and then they would open the rubric and be able to see their discussion board feedback, right?
Not exactly. So with discussion boards, well, with both discussion boards and assignments, you're always going to need to be typing in feedback in 2 separate places. Some general feedback area, and then the rubric, because the rubrics can't be empty. So with the discussion board, there's 2 places to leave general feedback in the grades, here in grades. So I'm in grades for this particular discussion board. Now I can see when I click on the submission icon, it pops up this little window. I can see the students' posts, read what they wrote, and I can leave a comment here. If I want the student to see whatever I type in here, I have to click off this box. It does not default click off, which is why if you look at any of the Colt tutorials, they will not tell you to put a comment here because they don't want you to forget. They're probably mad at me for even telling you guys this, but I'm telling you because I trust that if you're going to decide to use this, that you'll remember to click it off. Alternatively, you could leave this exact same comment, and it will look the exact same to the student if you just type it in here by clicking the pencil. But never in this pencil area will the student see the words that you type in the rubric, in the discussion board rubric. The only way they will see these words is if they click on that hyperlink underneath what they see that you put in the pencil area. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's different from the student perspective for assignments versus discussion boards. I feel like it's more different for them than it is for us because we still have to click in 2 different places. But they actually have to go to a whole separate place to see the full rubric for the assignments. But then the comments for the DBs don't just come in here. They have to click here, but they don't have to go to a separate place. Essentially what happened, I think, when Brightspace developed this was that they had 2 separate teams, and the discussion board people developed something, and then like the assignment people developed something, and that's why they look and feel so different. I hope I'm making things clearer and not more confusing.
You are. I think they got it.
I hope so. Because I think when you have a good understanding of what the students are going to see and how they're going to see it, it helps you position and phrase things appropriately.
Yeah.
As well. And then it helps you decide, okay, how do I want to balance my feedback? Do I want to have the bulk of my feedback be in that rubric area? Do I want to do it this way? You know, that's up to you as long as the rubric's not empty.
Mary's saying that is very cumbersome. We have to go to 3 different places to grade discussions. That's why I opened split screen, Mary.
The first way I showed you, it's just 2.
It's just 2.
But again, you do have to remember to check off that box.
As long as you check the box.
So that's how you get it to just be 2. So if you can avoid clicking on this feedback column at all. You can just click here for discussions and here. You just have to remember when you leave your overall comment, hey Christina, thanks for your post. Check out the link below for your rubric comments. You just have to make sure you click this box and then click save and close.
Something else to remember, guys, is they are taking what you say and your feedback, Colt is, seriously. And they're trying to make upgrades and make this seamless. And they keep improving and improving and improving. So, you know, just be patient with the system and know that they are concerned and they're trying their best to make it easier for you guys.
Okay. So, right, so Evelyn says, I think grading discussions through the gradebook is better and all feedback in the pencil area. True, but the rubric still can't be empty. So that's a key thing. The rubric should never be empty of comments. It doesn't have to have a boatload of comments, but it cannot be empty. And when we look at your feedback, you know, when your team lead assesses your course or when we're checking out courses, we'll look at it in totality. So is the rubric not empty? Great. Is the feedback when I look at it overall, is it good? Is it what we're expecting? Then fine. How you balance it, again, is up to you, as long as you work within those guidelines.
Yes, Evelyn, they should have learned.
Yes, Evelyn. So when I show you this rubric here, the one that I filled out for the student, I can't, let me minimize this here. I'm going to spread it out so you guys can see it a little bit better. So you'll see that I have a comment for this critical element, the comprehension one. That's like, for this rubric, it's a little bit different than the ones in Gen Ed, than this class, but this is the most important one. And I also happen to give detailed feedback in the general comment area, so my comments here are not quite as detailed as they might otherwise be if I gave less feedback in the general area. But you notice I do have a comment. If I did not have any comment here, and I don't have any, I didn't choose to give a comment here, I didn't choose to give a comment here in the rubric. I did talk about this stuff in her overall feedback, and I didn't choose to give a comment here. If I had done no comments, I would not be meeting the current expectations. So by adding this comment here, and then of course the other stuff that I wrote holistically made my feedback good quality, I am meeting the current expectations. But if I were to X this out, I would no longer be meeting the expectations. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I'm going to restore that. I didn't know that button was there. That's very cool. If you accidentally exit out, apparently you can get it right back. All right, I'm going to close this. So for any assignment with an embedded rubric, so that's discussions, assignments, typically not quizzes. I don't think any of our quizzes in these courses have rubrics attached. I think it's all just, you know, some sort of multiple choice type of scoring or short answer scoring. There should be at least some comments somewhere in the rubric. It's up to you how much is there. Some of you are going to find that you like to give lots and lots of feedback in the rubric elements, and some of you are going to find that you prefer to do the bulk of your feedback in this general area, whether that's a DB or an assignment. And for me, I do it differently for assignments than I do DBs. For the assignments, because of the way they were structured in the classes that I taught, I like to give the bulk of my feedback in the rubrics, but I didn't feel the same way for the DBs. So my rubric feedback for discussion boards was smaller, but my overall feedback was more by comparison. So that's how I decided to balance it. Okay, I think there was a comment, buddy.
I think we're good.
Okay, great. Is there anything anybody else wants to see in Brightspace in general? I know that we wanted to specifically focus on the rubric stuff because it's been very confusing, and we know that it's not straightforward. So we wanted to make sure we cover that. But I'm happy to show other stuff while we're in here.
We can also do a one-on-one Skype meeting too. Walk you guys through if any of you are struggling with it.
Okay. Well, it doesn't look like we have any more Brightspace questions, so I'm going to stop sharing this screen and we'll go back to our PowerPoint. We just have a couple more things to cover. So Susan asks, can you link a content area? So like, I think what you mean, because it sounds like this is from Blackboard, Susan, if you want to link to like a specific place in the module when you're giving feedback or an announcement or something?
Yes.
Yeah, I have not found a way to do that, so I don't know. I think the answer is no, but I don't know if Kim, if you know of a way.
You can embed links in the announcements. Yes, you can.
Well, like, you used to be able to link like directly to it was a special feature in Blackboard. So you could link to a specific assignment in Module 2 or something. I think you might be able to do like a full hyperlink, so you could pull up that space in the course in a separate tab or something and directly link to that hyperlink, but it doesn't have that sort of like Blackboard feature where you can directly link to a content area that I've been able to find, and I did look.
I know that I've seen links, so I know you can do it. Now, I also know you can't just copy and paste stuff from Blackboard into Brightspace. If you're going to do it, you have to copy it into a doc or a PDF or something like that, and then pull it out of that, or you have to save it to your laptop and then pull it out of that. Otherwise, the links don't come through, and neither do pictures. So I know there is a disconnect between copying and pasting directly from Blackboard into Brightspace for sure.
Can everybody see the slide that says live demo of grading in Brightspace?
Yes.
I'm always worried that it's not linked, that it's not synced. Yeah, everybody can see it? Okay.
Yes.
All right, so I have talked enough, so I'll let Kim talk to you guys quickly about advisor communication.
I'll just go ahead and start with just understand that advisors have anywhere from 300 to 500 students that they take care of every single term. So they have a lot of correspondence that's hitting their computers and a lot of phone calls, and they're on the phone a lot. Just so you know, I just kind of wanted to give you that preface before we begin, because I hear sometimes from faculty they get upset when they feel like they should hear from advising more. And if you want to hear from advising, make sure that you ask for that. And if you're copying or you're doing a correspondence with the student, or you're telling the advisor that the student has submitted work and you want to hear from them, if you put it in writing, they are supposed to reach out to you and call you. You find that they have not, then you need to definitely let Nicole and I know so we can reach out for you. But here's our do's and don'ts slides again. We definitely want you to copy the advisor in all communications to the student when you're doing your outreach in week 1 and 2 for sure. So they are aware that students have missed an assignment, and they can be on the phone, trying to get them back into class and getting their assignments submitted. And you also want to make clear that, in your correspondence to the student, make it clear to the student that you are copying their advisor and why. So the student is aware, and there's no surprises. And if you do want to hear from them, like I said previously, put a little note at the bottom of the note and say, hey, Susan, can you please reach out to me by email and let me know when you hear from Thomas? Or if you don't want to do it that way, send them a private email and just, say, hey, Susan, I haven't seen Thomas in class. He hasn't turned anything in the last couple times. Can you let me know? Can you reach out to me if you get a hold of him? Because I'd like to know what's going on with him. If you do that, they are definitely supposed to reach back out to you and communicate with you. Don't forget to include the student's full name when you're doing your outreach and your correspondence. And be sure that you're not copying them for every late submission all term. We ask that you really, be very proactive in the first couple weeks. But the only other time that I would maybe potentially copy them on something is if I had a great student and then all of a sudden in week 5 or week 6, they're MIA for no apparent reason. Then I would probably copy them. But if you've got a student that goes MIA in week 3 and you have copied the advisor 4 times and the students they've just given up, once you get past, I would say, sending them correspondence 2 or 3 times and that the student's not coming back, you don't have to continue to fill up their inbox. Also know too, if you email from your Brightspace account within your course, that history stays within your class. So you always can go back to it, and once you have that advisor lookup feature, once you look the advisor up and you've sent them the correspondence, then you can go ahead just go back to the email area and find the previous email, and you can copy and paste the advisor's email for your second email to the student if you need to copy the advisor again, so you don't have to do double work. All of that stuff stays with the course. The history, the email stays with Brightspace as long as you don't delete it. When the student does respond to you, if they do, that will show up in your SNU email account. So you won't have the full email chain in the Brightspace course, but it's good to have that initial contact and know, if you're sending the emails from Brightspace, know, hey, I sent on June 6th, I sent a note to the student, then I sent another note on June 10th, and then that way you always have that record within your class. Great. Any questions? Are we good? Should we keep going? The advisor lookup tool is under tools, and it's right next to course menu where you do all your grading and go to your modules and stuff. It's the drop down menu that's called tools, and then you go to the advisor lookup. And I believe it comes up with a list of students. And there's several different places that you can email the student in their class. Anywhere you see the little mail icon, you can actually check the box and send the student an email.
Kim, you want me to pop on the screen share again real quick?
Sure.
Okay. And we'll come back because there's some resources we want to talk to you guys about. Share my screen. Go back here. Okay, so this is again my same class that we saw before from last term. Now, if I want to see, try to remember these steps. You might want to write them down because I don't think it's incredibly intuitive. But you come to this little envelope, message alerts, and then you'd say no items found. But then if you click email, it's going to take you to a sort of like general email center where you can generate emails but also find sent emails. So I can generate an email from here and send it to anybody, and it will save to where I'm about to show you. So if you click on Sent Mail, that shows you every mail that you've sent through the Brightspace course. There's a handful of ways to send emails through Brightspace. There's some links when you're in an assignment submission. You can email students from there. You can email students from the grades area. But anything that you initiate through Brightspace versus like through your Outlook or your webmail will get saved here. So you can see every single email that I sent last term through Brightspace. A lot of these are following up on students who were probably late with an assignment, as you can see. And actually, it saves everything from even past classes. So this is actually all my classes. You can see some other course codes.
Sweet. And it's good to have that. It really is, because you never know what might happen. It's good to just
Laura, that's a great one. So Laura says she finally figured out how to get them so they're all sent to her as well. Let me, yes, because I have that feature set up as well, and yes, it is very handy. I think, so instead of having to BCC yourself, it's, and if I struggle to remember how I did it, Laura, maybe you remember if it's more fresh in your brain, but let's check settings. Send a copy of each outgoing message to me. So if you come to this email place, you can go to settings and click off here. And that way, whenever you send a message to a student, you automatically get a copy.
Fab, it will go to your SNU mailbox if you check that send a copy of each outgoing. If you check that second box, it will. If you don't want it to go to your SNU and you just want it to stay in your sent, then it'll just stay with Brightspace.
So that's that. Thank you for reminding us about that, Laura. Cool. All right, I'm going to pop back out. Okay. Great. And I'll get the PowerPoint back up. And
Did you guys have any other questions for us?
We were all set with oh, for Christ's sake.
I think we went over the last
This one?
slide. Yeah, I think we still need
Okay.
to talk about this one. We're going to send out the slideshow for you guys. But, you know, there is a resource area on this slide deck. I can't go backwards. I want to go back. But you have all kinds of resources at your fingertips, your support system. Nicole, for some reason, it's on the time for questions. It won't go backwards.
Yeah, that's what I keep thinking it's not synced, and it's telling me that it is, but I'm going to try it again. How about now? Okay.
There.
Yeah.
Yes, there it is. The help desk, my tip for the help desk is if you have a tech support question, you know, maybe your browser isn't working or something's not working right with your computer, my suggestion is to always call tech support instead of filing a ticket. If you file a ticket for tech support, they're going to try and call you back, and 9 times out of 10 they're going to miss you, and then they're going to close the ticket. So if you do have a tech support question, my suggestion is put this phone number in your cell phone and just have it, and just call them, because you know, you never know when you maybe can't find the phone number. If you have a course content situation where you've got a broken link or something like that is going on, my suggestion for that is to go through the service portal and submit a ticket. Those of you who don't know how to do that, reach out to Nicole and I, and we can walk you through those steps. If it's a big deal and you're concerned about the course because something is broken, please reach out to us so we know, and we can follow up as well with the content team to make sure that that fix is getting fixed. Colt, we were all over the Colt website today, but it is so helpful, and it has all kinds of tutorials. It's definitely a place for you guys to spend some time if you have a little bit of free time, or if you're looking for something specific. They really do. They update that documentation all the time, and they have stuff for you there that, you know, for everything. Also, you can email them at facultysupport@snu.edu. And I sent them a question today. I was trying to find the team lead list today for my sections, and I sent them a question today, and they got back to me within 3 minutes. So they're really, really quick. Nicole, you keep talking. My dogs are going to bark.
Sure, no problem. So we went over help desk, Colt, ServiceNow portal. Both of these things, when we send out the PowerPoint, I think I might have sent it out to my group already, but you might get a second one since I'm going to send out this recording as well. These click-me's are going to bring you to those sites. I really recommend that you bookmark them because it isn't always easy to like find how you get to them. I mean, you can get them through MySNU, absolutely, mysnu.edu. But I think it just makes life so much easier to bookmark them. So just, you know, open them up. A lot of the stuff I have in my, some of the stuff I have in my email signature as well that you can click on, and then you just have it saved. Your team lead and your dean, that's Kim or I, depending on which group you're in. We are always here for you if you have random questions. We do our best to get back to you as soon as possible. Your team lead, if you are in an evaluation term, they're going to be in your course on a very regular basis, and they're going to be coaching you on meeting those faculty fundamental requirements and the instructional practices rubric, and they can help with any general teaching questions and advice. They may not have familiarity with the course that they're overseeing, so we might have somebody who generally teaches history classes oversee a humanities course, or somebody who typically teaches science courses overseeing a social sciences course. So if you have specific questions about the course, like I don't understand the rubric language here, or I don't think this is a good resource for students, could we get a better one, that stuff is better to come to us. So course concerns and student concerns, you can bring those to us if you think that they're, you know, very course specific that your team lead might not necessarily be able to speak to. Some of your team leads might have taught your course, and then you're in a great position and you can talk to them all day long about course stuff. But we certainly also do want to know about any issues that come up with the course. We can sort of grease those wheels if you do submit any course-related requests through the ServiceNow portal. We can get those moving a little bit faster as deans. So if you put something in, you can forward the ticket to us and let us know what's going on, and we can follow up on it. I think I have a few of those pans in the fire currently with some folks of mine, so thank you for looping me in. You can also come to us with policy and scheduling questions, and really anything that you have that you're not sure about. But between your team lead and your dean, you've got a lot of one-on-one support. In general, team leads and deans are very happy to meet with you one-on-one, have a phone call, do a screen share session if that's best, to work out some things. Make sure that you understand expectations and that you know how to execute those expectations. Or if there's just something weird and funky going on in the course and you just feel like, you know, I got to talk to somebody about this or I got to show them this, that's what we're here for.
Thanks, Nicole. I think the crazy is over here. So the only other thing I wanted to add to that is, you know, the team leads are there to help you, and I know that sometimes, you know, we have faculty who've been teaching a really long time, and you know, it kind of bothers them that they've got a team lead poking around their course. Just understand that the team leads are there to make sure that you know, to be a helper to you, to help you assess your own self and your own teaching abilities, and you know, they're there as a support system. You know, they're not there to intimidate, and they're not there to you know, be a negative in any way. They're only there for a positive reason, and they're there to help, just like Nicole and I are here to help you as well. So definitely, you know, feel comfortable reaching out to them, you know, and also Nicole and I for anything that you might have or anything weird or quirky that might come. Do we have any other questions before we go? I wrote down the SOMO question, and I also wrote down the student-facing link that we can't seem to get to work, so we'll have solutions for those pretty quick for you guys.
And could you also add to your list, Kim, since you've got a list going, that one of our new instructors, Evelyn, had asked about some examples of student outreach emails when, like, they're late for an assignment, for instance.
Great.
Thanks.
I actually have a really good one from last term that I sent to everybody. It was really, really detailed and warm.
Then
really
I'll use yours and give to Evelyn. Okay, I'll scroll through mine, but I don't know if mine are as exemplary as some other wonderful faculty here. They're good, but I bet there's better.
Guys, we thank you for hanging out for an extra 30 minutes tonight. Really appreciate your time. And
yes, thank you guys so much.
I think at one point we had like 37 on the call, and then we had over 70 last Friday. I think we had 78. So that's awesome. We have what, 500 faculty between us, Nicole? So we got a fifth of them to come?
400. Yeah. I think I have 207 this term, so. Yeah, we're very excited to be working with you guys, and yeah. All right, we will get this recording to you. It will be a YouTube link. I should have it out to the group sometime tomorrow before I eat some lunch. So. Usually that's about how long it takes me when I get it off Adobe and onto YouTube.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, fab. That's a great idea on SNU Connect. Thank you. Yeah, for new folks, you can find lots of great stuff through your team leads on SNU Connect. So Fab, Fabian Soa in full name. You can find her on SNU Connect, and she said she has some outreach emails housed there. But definitely follow your team lead and any of us on SNU Connect. And you can also follow the general education group on SNU Connect. Have a very awesome week, everybody. Thank you guys so much for coming.